Okay with everybody?
Yeah.
It's just kicking off. Fantastic. So, well, hello again, everyone. I thought I'd start by just asking a couple of questions, actually, based on the specific roles that you've told me about there. I was just wondering what sort of focus you might want for the presentation itself. It sounds like we have quite a focus on infection control. Is that something you'd be looking for you to be dealt with within your middleware? Or is that something you think that you're covered by CDSS and Baxter and ICNet? I'd be interested on whether, yeah, you'd be interested in what we could do there. Is it kind of a blood culture KPI data? I mean, I'm wondering what specific focus you might like me to take, just so I can be a little more kind of focused on your particular areas of interest.
So blood cultures as a particular interest, particularly contamination rates and overfilling, underfilling.
Right.
Yeah. Also, obviously, time, logistics wise, getting bottles in and making sure we're hitting the turnaround times. Tom might be able to answer more on other aspects in terms of an all singing dancing sort of dashboard system. Tom, have you got any ideas?
You show us what you have got in that is similar or of an ilk to ICNet, because obviously our system is linked to PAS, so we're able to calculate whether it's HAI, CAI, and capture all the relevant case information, and then do all the deduplication, so we know exactly what needs reporting to UKHSA, as opposed to reporting everything to UKHSA, and then managing outbreaks, etc., around the place.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'm entirely honest, from what I know about CDSS, and particularly packages that are focused very much in on infection control, that's a much more specialist area, and ICNet might be better at doing that specifically, particularly when it's as you say, it's going back into the patient records. And probably the hospital information system and all that sort of stuff, and not just based on the micro laboratory data. So we may not be able to compete with that in all honesty. And I think it would also manage kind of contact tracing and things like that as well, and be able to trace people back through the hospital. Would that be right, Tom?
Yeah, we're doing that with a variety of sources, but if you're looking at infographics, for instance, then it'd be useful to see what you can produce direct from the lab system in terms of number of specimens processed and what percentage were positive for which organism and all that sort of stuff. Whereas we use an ICNet purely for patient case management. So all that other GUI stuff as to what the labs are dealing with and what the hit rates, etc., all that sort of stuff may be useful for the trust to have on dashboards.
Right, I'll look at that as well for you. Brilliant. Okay, right, I'm just going to share my screen then very quickly, and I'll just I think start with a little presentation for Maestria. I think this is the one I want. There we go. So can you see, excuse me, can you see my screen there now?
Yeah, we can, Jamie, yeah.
Excellent. So what I'm going to be talking about is Maestria and Clarion Lab Analytics, which is our add-on data visualization tool, which I believe you'll be receiving in due course there in Stoke. So one of the reasons that one of the kind of pillars behind the development of Maestria was addressing what we hope are kind of the increasing challenges facing the laboratories these days. One of them, and I'm sure you've come across this a lot, is that LIS interfaces are generally not fit for purpose, is the simple truth for microbiology, and they're also not set up to extract the sort of data and have data visualization tools that are required for the sort of the modern era. Increasingly, there's I think huge pressure as well, as we all know, to provide data and KPI data for NHS England, or to adhere to the SMI guidelines, or for UCAS reporting. So again, we knew that we needed a middleware to step up to be able to provide that. And really, it's also it's a challenge to with this the scale of laboratory operations these days. So any help that can be provided in kind of optimizing that workflow, day-to-day activities, we know would be very much appreciated. So where are we? We've been around for 60 years, 61 years now. The last 10 of those have been within microbiology, IT, data expertise, and that's been with Myla. But we've moved on into a new era from there now with Maestria, which was launched in March of last year. And Maestria is part of the Vision Suite, which is the name we have for the complete software suite that we offer. What we have within there is Maestria there, of course, you can see in the top left-hand side. We've got syndromic trends and fireworks, which are for virology, for our BioFire film array suite of products. We've got Clarion Lab Analytics, which is our data visualization tool I'll be discussing today, and we've got EpiSeq, which is for our next generation sequencing. And what this is all about is providing data not just to the laboratory, of course, but of course to clinicians and AMS committees and any other kind of external regulatory body as well, for that matter. And please do just stop me if you have any questions about this. So what it's all about really is providing the right result at the right time, and you being able to have confidence in the accuracy of that result, and being able to optimize your lab operations. So there are three main areas that we think Maestria is beneficial in. One of them is being able to optimize lab workflow, and that's predominantly about connectivity and ergonomics. So what we've got in Maestria, which is certainly a big step up from Myla, is a new module for gram entry. So we can now manage all of the analytic steps, including the gram staining. We've got specimen view that can be printed, so it's more around specimen view than patient view, as was in Myla. There's contextual web help, which is much more intuitive. There's multi-user configurable dashboard. So this is single sign-on. It's per user, and it really is configured around individual use cases for not just the laboratory, which is very exciting, but also for individual users potentially. And because it's touchscreen, it's browser-based, it really is about ease of accessibility and data entry. The next thing I want to talk about is microbiology expertise around ID and AST. So there's an integrated ID and AST solution to facilitate claims alignment. There's rule-based expert selective reporting, so you can do all of your rule filtering within Maestria, and of course that is also for all methods of ID and AST, and that includes offline methods. And you can also manage your breakpoints for offline manual AST methods within Maestria, which is also brand new. And bringing together Maestria and Clarion Lab Analytics, it really does offer a very powerful suite for data analysis. I think it allows you to really zero in on those blood culture KPIs that are required by NHS England. So I'll talk about that, Kerry, in more detail. So volume, time to load, and number of sets. It allows you to improve your blood culture sample management by being able to zero in on those pre-analytical steps and the sources of poor practice, and those areas which need additional education. You can track contamination rates, Kerry, as you asked about before, and you can also monitor trends in organism occurrence, which I think Tom would be interested in, and resistance patterns, which of course are essential for AMS committees. So there we've got Maestria and Clarion Lab Analytics in the centre there. So Maestria is our middleware. What we're seeing here, I think, is kind of the definition of a middleware at the centre, kind of orchestrating all of the operations. We'll get information from the LIS, so incredibly important that we get the right and very rich data source. So the more data, the better. Here we want information on the location of specimen collection, for instance. That's very, very important to us. But the more data, the better, ultimately. And of course, we're getting data in from all of our instruments, all of that result data, including Gareth from BCID2 at the moment. So we can connect up the BCID2 panel to Maestria, but hopefully with the next release in autumn, towards the end of this year, Maestria version 5.1, we should be able to connect up all of our biofire panels directly to Maestria to manage the results in there. We've also got manual methods, of course, in here, such as e-test and even our rapid AST analyzer, the Reveal. But what we've also got as well is an ability to connect to third-party instruments. We're working on this all of the time. So, for instance, the Sysmex urine analyzers, I don't know if you have those on site there, but the third-party AST analyzers, the disk diffusion readers. If there's a business case for it, we have a commitment from R&D to add these as quickly as possible, so that we're bringing in as much data as we possibly can. Because of course, the more data we have within Maestria consolidated there, the more we can report on. Any questions on that before I move on? Excellent. I'll move on. Righty. So what this is, what Maestria offers is it really is an evolving solution. We've got a fairly clearly defined roadmap. So we already know what's coming. For instance, in the next release later this year, they'll be coming about every 18 months or so. It's really about supporting customers as much as we possibly can, and also to support their internal programs, such as the antimicrobial stewardship programs. So what we hope is that it really is offer the ability to have a single piece of software, a single middleware to really orchestrate all of your laboratory operations. And rather than just chat about slides, what I'd like to do is do the actual demonstration. So I'm just going to stop sharing that and then move on to sharing another screen. So let's have a look. It's good. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. That's the one. Excellent. So could everybody see that there now? Anybody hear me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right, brilliant. So this is the main portal, the main jumping off point for Maestria. What you can see straight away are really easy to use, easily accessible widgets, just for ease of navigation. What you can see in the bottom would be all of your connected instruments. So in this case, we've got a Reveal and a Adagio, so we've got a third-party instrument there. So all of your connected instruments would be down here. There's nothing behind these particular ones because this is just a demo system. But if you clicked on those, it would take you to the GUI for the instrument itself. I'll just show you the supervision. So this is another, it's a little like the supervision screen in Myla, but this allows you to view all of your connected instruments and even your communications interface. And as with all of the stuff in here, it's color coded so you can see if there were any issues. And if there were any issues that have been identified, you could just click on remote access, and via link you could go to that to troubleshoot that, or just raise a case to have that looked into a little further. I'll just close that down now, just so we don't get too confused. What else we've got in here there's the statistical reporting module, which is built in as it is in Myla. Do you use that the statistical reporting module at all at the moment, Kerry?
No, to be honest, no. I mean, we know it's there, but we don't tend to go into it, to be honest.
Right, so well, it does have some value. I mean, it's very different from lab analytics that I'll show you in a moment, but it really does have some value in terms of being able to automate reporting. And did we do any work on the kind of getting the location table and things like that up and running for you, Kerry?
No, I don't think we did in the end.
So that's something we'll need to look into again, because in order to get the best out of Maestria and lab analytics, we'll have to make sure that we've got the location tables mapped so that we can we can filter on location.
Okay.
But we'll have that conversation afterwards.
Okay.
So if I just jump into the lab workflow. So this is the activity dashboard. So this is where you'd spend most of your time within Maestria. And this is where we're mapping all of our kind of daily processes. So this might look like it's kind of, pre-populated, but actually, excuse me, the only bucket, we call these buckets here, the only bucket that's here by default is actually the blood culture one. Every other one of these is actually, well, this is the demo version, of course, but it would be added by you based on your particular use case. So you would decide what goes in here, what color it is, and what lists go into here. So it's a list-based way of configuring the dashboard. You've got a lot of the obvious stuff that you would expect to be here, like positive alerts there, you can see at the top. You've got positive bottle alerts here. You've got the positive bottles to unload. You've got your bottles in progress, anonymous bottles, all of that type of thing. But then you might see some other things, like if we look in the sepsis code one, for instance. So this is one that's been set up for demo purposes, but just around urgent specimens for suspected sepsis cases. So if I just drop into here, for instance, so this one is called Patient Flag ICU. So it's flagging around anything from the emergency department. So if you see the way that this list is built, we can see at the top, it's built around patient service. So it's just around the emergency department. There we go. Okay. And if I come back out of that one, just a second, I'll have a look at clinical study case, for instance. You can see that this list, I believe, has just been built around need help. So it's been built not around a location or a service or an institution, which you could build a list around. It's actually been built around these tags. So we can add these tags in addition. That's another way to actually configure these lists. And I'll just show you, for instance. So imagine that this one was just about urgent cases, about suspected sepsis cases. So you could, so as I've said, this is built around this particular tag, but we can add tags in here if we want. These are the ones that have been set up for the demo purposes, but we could put in, sorry, we've already got the need help one in, but we could put in call physician. And if you imagine that one's been set up just for sepsis cases and you had a tag called sepsis, suspected sepsis, for instance, all you'd have to do then is remove that tag after it had been reviewed and dealt with, and then it would drop out of the list. So you can very easily see how you could configure an urgent list and then refine that as the particular cases are dealt with. Just show you as well, if I drop out of that and go back to the main list. Excuse me. So we go back to the desktop. One of the two other lists I could show you here is if I just show you the demo specimens, for instance, and drop into these. I'll go to this one here, Robert Jolly. What you can see is the way that if I drop into that particular patient, all of the information for that patient is consolidated in a single location. So we've got, for instance, the blood culture information around here. So for this particular chap, we've got 2 bottles. We've got our cumulative total for the bottle volume. So that's 20 mils over 2 bottles, perfect 10 in each one, fantastic. We've obviously got the sample volume. These are positive bottles, as you can see. And as with Myla, we can see the bottle image in there, which is very useful if we're not picking up the blood bottle volume because it's not scanning correctly, usually labeling issues. We've also got the growth curve as well. We can see in there. We've even got the lot number and expiration information available within there as well. What we've also got, if it has been taken, is we can see any staining observation results. I'll tell you what, we'll put one of those in. I'll just copy that for now. And any ID and AST information we've got. So what you'll see again is these particular results are from automated ID, so it's from Vitek MS. What we've got on the ASTs though, you can see that we've got one from the Vitek 2, but we've also got Kirby Bauer. So we've got a manual AST result in this here as well. But as I've said, you'll see all of your result information for automatic and manual methods consolidated in this one location. If there are any MDROs identified, then they'll be flagged in here as well. Unlike Myla, the MDRO identification is more automated rather than just a manual review. And what you'll also see is any blood culture contamination information, which would be in here as well. That is unfortunately a manual review. But if I just show you, for instance, how the logbook works as well. So if I wanted to add a tag in here, such as need help, or I wanted to add a comment, I can pop that in here. Whoops, call it test, and I save that. If we then go into the logbook, what we'll see in here is all of the auditable information right from the receipt of the request, the test request, right the way through to the result. But that would include everything based on the individual user login, even things like removing tag or adding a comment. And so that's all absolutely audited within there. Any questions on that before I move on? Right, I'll just pop out of here. I'll go back to the main desktop here. I just want to show you one or two other things in here as well. What we've got as well as a blood culture monitoring tab. I don't know if you use this in Myler at all, Kerry. There's something similar in Myler where you can filter it on the last however many number of days. But what it's going to give you is although these are only averages, I'll give you your average time to load over that particular time period. Unfortunately, because it's a demo system, there's no bottle data in here, but I'll give you your average time to detection as well, and your average time to load. So that's all that blood culture data is being tracked in real time and is available just through this blood culture monitoring tab straight away. Just want to show you one other thing, actually. If we have a look at just about how to create and filter these lists. To think very specifically, Kerry, about the data that's required by NHS England for the audit tool, is that something you've filled in this year?
I haven't, but we have collectively as a lab. Yeah, we have filled one in. Yeah.
I mean, in all honesty, between Myler and Maestria and the virtual, it's a perfect setup to collect all of that individual bottle data. So, but if I just show you how you might want to create a list just around that data, for instance. So this is currently all bottles in progress, but if I just unfilter this, and this should then give me all bottles that have been manual input into this demo system. But I'll show you how to configure a list in the background. So all I need to do is go into filters and then into columns. And if you think about the stuff that the audit tool needs, for instance, it doesn't need a patient name, so I can take that out. It doesn't need a specimen type because it's all going to be blurred. Bottle type we can leave in, but yes, we would want sample volume. We would want the bottle load time. That's very important to us for that time to load. We don't need time under test or projected end time. We don't need the incubated, or we don't need the sell ID. But what do we need? We do need the collection time. Excellent. So now we've got the collection time and the load time. So we would move those around. What else could we need? I think if we have the for the anaerobic and aerobic bottles, we could have the bottle type in here, or the disposable type. Let's that in here. Have I got that in already? Let me have a look. There we go. So we've got the bottle ID and the bottle type in there already, and lab ID. I think it actually asks for the patient ID as well. So we could, yeah, there we go. So I think that's all of the data you actually need for NHS England audit tool. And you can see how easy it is to arrange this data. You can see it in the background there. And then all I would have to do, I can't do it on the demo system, unfortunately, I know I keep saying that, but is save that. And then going back to the desktop, I could save that as NHS England audit. And I would know that I would have all of the data there ready to go for whenever we needed that. And all you have to do then is just click on export and it takes it out to a CSV file. So, any questions on that before I move on to looking at Clarion Lab Analytics? No problems. I'll move on then. So this next one, so statistical reporting is our built-in module. As I've said, there are some advantages to it. I don't want to go into that in too much detail today in terms of being able to create and automate reports, but it's mainly text-based, and in all honesty, it's a little time-consuming, difficult to configure. But Clarion Lab Analytics is very much not that. It's really designed not for IT experts or kind of data experts. It's just designed for ease of use and just built around providing a really dynamic, easy way to access your data. So this is the main jumping off point. I'll go first into the lab manager dashboard. Now, lots of people I've showed this to have said that this type of data, this type of screen would be something that they would love to put maybe up on a big screen in their laboratory, just because it would give all of the guys in there kind of idea of the direction of travel and you know how things are going in terms of those KPIs. So what this is trying to do is show us what we hope are the main KPIs for your laboratory, and you can see it's quite blood culture heavy. So we've got the blood bottle volume being tracked, and if you just look at how this works, so what we've got here is the last 30 days of data pinned versus the 30 days before, and then a direction arrow. So you can see the direction of travel, whether it's trending up or down. You can see very marginally it's traveling, it's up in this case, which is very good. You've got this global trend graph underneath it as well. So what you'll see here is the kind of parameters that have been set out for acceptable thresholds. So what we're trying is somewhere between that 8 and 10, of course, 8 and 10 being the optimal fill level, and anything above or below will trigger a bit of an alert. So above, it gives us an amber warning. This would go up to amber if it went above 12, and then anything below 8 is going to give us, it's going to be color coded and go to 8. What you can also see as well as any anomalous events in here. So we've obviously got 1 or 2 that have gone over, but 1 or 2 that have gone under. And as I said earlier, because it's a data visualization tool, it's incredibly easy to pinpoint those particular incidents where you have anomalous data that might be skewing the figures a little bit. Looking at some of the other ones, we're tracking contamination rates, so you can see that this is tracking up in this case. The thresholds that have been set here is 2 for an amber alert, and then 3 for turning red for a serious issue. You can set these thresholds, these parameters, based on local guidelines as well. So I'm not sure. I think it might be 2.5% for contamination rate, which is the. But again, these can be set up at when we configure the software for the first time. We're also tracking that mean load time. Of course, we want to keep it under 4 hours. Gareth, you've got your hand up for a question there.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask while you were talking about it. You've got saying about the amber and red alerts that are configurable there. Is that an actual physical alert where you can get an email or kind of a alarm going off or anything like that, or is it just you've got to log in and then you will see that this has gone into the red?
This would be something that you would have to monitor. This software is not going to trigger an alert for you.
Right. Okay.
And the only alerts we have like that are really from the virtual via Maestria for things like positive alert or instrument connectivity and things like that.
Yeah.
And these will require
it's monitoring, isn't it?
Monitoring, yes, indeed. Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough. Okay, thank you.
No problems. Anything else on that, sorry? I'll just show you a few other things that are being tracked in that case then. So we're tracking the positivity rate there, also the number of identifications, a few new ones that are absolutely new with the Maestria version of this. We've got the gram staining module, which is tracking the time to the gram result from the positive blood culture. This is set at 45 minutes, which I understand is a little bit tight. It's more like 2 hours is the guideline here, but again, we can alter that parameter. We've got one for failed test spots as well, for the Vitek MS and the MS Prime. I'll show you that in a little more detail as well, because I think that's usually pretty interesting. And we've also got, which is very important now, is the time to result being tracked, and we can track out each individual component step for that as well. But I'll show you that in more detail. So moving on, I'll start off with the blood cultures. So what you'll see, I think, is just how dynamic this software is. For instance, if I just move from 6 months of data, if I want to go to 1 year of data, all I do is click on it, and it automatically readjusts in the background. It works as quickly as this in real time on your servers. It's not interrogating the database to do this. What happens is we get a data extract at 11 o'clock every evening. That then gets written out to the RAM in the morning. So the data is immediately accessible to us. So it's almost live data, but not quite. It's 11 o'clock the previous evening, but it really is as responsive as this. and in real time. So you click on something and it automatically adjusts. Everything in Clarion Lab Analytics is just point and click as well. So if, for instance, I just want to look at low fill volumes, I click on there and it'll only show me the low fill bottles. If I only want to look at positive bottles, positive low fill bottles, I can look at that as well. I mean, I don't know how helpful that particular combination is, but I can immediately take that out as well if I want to. So what you see here is that under the analysis dashboard is just the positive bottles being tracked. You'll also see that we can refine not just on the date, but on the location. So that's the important next step that I was mentioned to Kerry about us making sure that we're receiving the correct locations, because we can within the request message, because we can filter this right down to room level, and see why that becomes incredibly important when we go through some of the other screens. So if I go on to the efficiency, and please stop me if you want to ask anything, this is where we're tracking the mean load time. So this is one of those the situations where the location really becomes important. You see that this particular demo setup, we've got 2 institutions that are connected. If I wanted to have a look at this one, because that's obviously tracking above the average for the last 30 days of 3 hours, this is 3:15. I just click on it and drill down a little further. And then I can see, for instance, service 5, which I don't know, might be some particularly remote location within the institution. Again, we can just refine that down further. So we can find out exactly where the problem locations are. If we have an issue with mean load time and we're struggling to keep it under that 4 hours, we can actually find out the problem locations that need to have that additional attention. If I just drop those out, also under efficiency, you'll see this one here. This is called, it's bizarrely named the instrument load follow-up, but what it's actually doing, if I expand it out, and you can see how easy it is to do that and look at the data in more detail. This is tracking actual instrument capacity. It's the number of bottles and it's the percentage capacity across all virtual blood connected blood culture analyzers, and it's tracking it on a daily basis. So if I just with my mouse wheel, I can track back and forwards. Excuse me, it looks like it's just, there we go. So we can see it's color coded again, like everything else. So there might have been some maintenance going on here. So you can see periods where it was actually empty, but you can also equally see times when it's extremely high capacity. So you can see straight away, it's a very easy way to track seasonal trends based on capacity and whether you need any more capacity. And it's also an incredibly easy way to project forwards whether you might need additional capacity if you were, for instance, looking at increasing the number of sets, which I know, of course, has been recommended by NHS England. And in terms of being able to share this data, if for instance you decided that this was of sufficient concern to want to immediately share it with a colleague, there's a number of ways you can do that. So in here you can see that we can share it in more traditional ways. So we can download it just as a PNG file and attach that to something, or a PDF, or look at the raw data. But what we can also do is, and I've done this a few times myself, is actually embed the URL here. So what you'll see in the background here is the actual image that we're looking at. And if I were just then to copy that URL and drop it into a Teams message, for instance, the recipient, all they would have to do would be to click on that URL, and they'd be taken straight to login. But once they'd logged in, they would be able to see the very same screen that I'm looking at. And so you can see the kind of immediacy of being able to share that data. I'll just close that up. And of course, we can print this as well if we wanted to go old school. There we go. Similar scenario for blood bottle volume. Of course, we're tracking this 30 days versus the period before. We don't really get the phlebotomist in the UK, but what we hopefully will be getting is the location of that collector, so that if we have any areas, I'm sure there'll be areas of the hospital where you suspect that perhaps the sample collection practices aren't as good as you might hope. It's an incredibly easy way to drill down into the data to see where those might be. So again, you can take that right down to, should be able to take that down to room level as well. If I go down into here, so we can see individual rooms in here as well, if you wanted to go right down to that particular level. if I take those out, you can do the same, of course, for contamination, which is the last element within here. And I think probably for contamination, it's that location itself, which is the most the most key area of this. Being able to not just look at your rates of contamination, but able to find particular locations where there's high levels of contamination, and being able to track those. Once again, you can have a look at the global trend graph, and you can see individual instances where we have instances of high contamination. And again, if you wanted to share that, it's incredibly easy to do so. So unless anybody has any more questions on that, I'll just move on to a few other dashboards. Just conscious of time a little bit as well. So moving on to the ID and AST. So what you've got in the analysis dashboard, sorry, is the number of identifications over the last period. What you'll see down here as well is the susceptibility trends being tracked. So if I just, for instance, if you wanted to refine on a particular organism, so does anybody want to have a look at anything in particular, or any, because we can refine this on organism and by antibiotic. So would you like me to pop anything into here?
Can you do C. difficile, Jamie, or something like that?
I can. You'll have to help me with spellings of things though, because I'm a
so it's Clostridium. Yeah.
So that's
so CLOS.
I think it's coming in there already. So that I think that'll get it there. Okay, so is that C. difficile there?
Yeah.
Excellent. So if you did C. difficile, for instance, it would be very easy to track that. So we're tracking that overall time. Oh, hold on, have I put that in the right place? So there's no susceptibility for that. We'd have to put in, if we put in maybe an antibiotic for it as well. Would there be any particular one or antibiotic family that we would want to use?
Yeah, we don't tend to test antibiotics on C. diff, unless you did something like E. coli, ESBL or something. Might be interesting to see.
Okay, I'll take that one out.
Or a multi-resistance organism.
So what am I doing right now? Excellent, right. So if I do the E. coli there, so if you just do it against E. coli, for instance, and this is for all time, and this is going to be for all antibiotics, but if you wanted to just have a look at whether there is any trend towards resistance, you can just expand that out as well. What you'll see as well is in the background, you can see that blue line. So that's giving us an indication of how many tests were actually performed during that particular time period. So if there's any period such as down here, where there were very few tests taken, that data there might be regarded as kind of statistically insignificant. But you can see for the rest of it, we've got high test numbers, so you could trust those. In this particular instance, I don't think we can see any huge trend towards resistance there. So we've got 15.7 there, and then tracking further along, maybe very slight. But you can see in terms of visualization, if there was any trend towards that, it would be very easy to see. Pull out of that and take that out. If I move on to the trending information, for instance, this might be interesting for infection control purposes, actually. So what it's got here is just the top 15 organisms. So that's just so that there's not too much noise here, so that it's not actually trying to show a graph of all of the organisms. But if we kind of had a look at, for instance, let's have a look. If I went and did Acinetobacter baumannii, for instance, obviously I knew this already, but what we can see in this demo system is that we've got a very obvious spike in occurrence during this particular period in September 21, versus kind of only 9 down here. what we can do as well, Tom, as you mentioned this from ICNet, is we can do deduplication here. Now, I've used this with customers in real time when I've been looking at demonstrations and things like that. It's very common to think that you have a spike in occurrence when actually it's against the same patient. But you can see in this instance, even after it's been deduplicated, that we still have a spike. We've got kind of a threefold increase during those periods. And what you can do, of course, then is start to look at the particular location where that might have happened. So you can see institution B has a higher incidence, and then of course, as with the others, you can see you can drill down right down to room level to see where the source of infection might be. Now, this, of course, it isn't called HAI, but you can see how easy it is to track those spikes in occurrence, and then drill down to the source of outbreak, just based on those on that data visualization. And just lastly, unless there's any questions on that, just lastly, we've got MDROs being tracked in here. Now that, as I've said, there's an automatic review process based on agreed parameters within Maestria for that to happen. But there we go. So the last thing I'm going to do is, or what we can also do, which is maybe fairly straightforward for you, but if you wanted, for instance, just to get a cumulative antibiogram, just to do surveillance on E. coli for the last year, it's incredibly quick and easy to do that as well. So if we just go back in, there we go. I've got our E. coli's there, so let's have that selection, and then do the last year. I'm not sure why that's, was it because I'll take those out? I'm not sure why it's not displaying data for that, actually. I must have something in here that, excuse me. I must have something filtered in here that's not working. What is that? Is that because we've got MDRO selected? That's a lot. I'm not sure if that element of the demo is actually working at the moment. What I'll do is I'll move on to the lab performance then in that case. So we've got no filters selected here. There's a couple of elements here that I think are really interesting. So the first one is the lab efficiency, and what this is going to do is allow us to really drill down into the time to result, because for the first time we're able to track all of the analytical steps from the specimen collection through to reception, right the way through to the result of the AST, including the gram step. What we can do is we can look at tracking our time to result for specimens with blood culture results, for instance. So as I've said, we've got the time to load, but we can track that, not just the total time to load, but collection to reception, and then reception to load. So we're breaking down all of the constituent steps. So we've got the loading time to the result on the virtual, for instance, the blood culture analyzer. We've got our gram result in here as well. So we can track it all of the individual component steps, but we can also track it as kind of right from 0 hours as well. If you imagine, so 0 hours is here, right the way through to the total release of the AST result at 58 hours here. So if there are any pinch points, there are any pain points within here, it's very easy to see which of those are causing an issue, and then lead an investigation into what might need to be done on that. I'll just show a couple of other things. So we've got our gram module as well, again, where for the first time we can track how efficient the gram result is going back. And I didn't show you the gram entry module actually within Maestria. I might finish up just very quickly by showing you that and explaining something around that. But we've got a VitecMS spotting dashboard as well now. So because of course everybody logs in individually to Maestria, we can see each individual operator. We can see how many spots they've done, and then we've got a bit of a kind of hall of shame here, I'm afraid, where we can see how many failed spots people have. But we can also, for instance, filter that by spot type and organism as well, just to make it absolutely fair. Any questions on that? But in that case, we're running out of time, so I'll just show you one other thing very quickly because I didn't do it initially. if I just go, excuse me, I'll go into the portal here. I'm just going to show you the gram entry dashboard. So this is the manual entry dashboard. So this is a new model where we can enter staining observations, but it's also allows us the ability to enter those manual methods I talked about for ID and AST as well. But if I just show you the gram, I think I copied a lab ID before for this gentleman, Dom Jolly. All we have to do to add the observation is, the idea is that this is it's enabled for touchscreen devices as well. So you might have a tablet actually at the gram bench, and all you would have to do is touch these with your finger, and you can see the observation being the gram result being entered in here and into here as I speak. That can then be sent out. It will automatically, when we save this, go to Maestria, but we can also send this out to the LAS, and we can even put in a comment for the LAS. If you wanted to put any additional comments for that specimen, for that patient generally, you could also pop those into here as well. And that will automatically go back out into Maestria, and it'll also be audited, of course, as we saw before. I won't save that particular one. I'll just cancel out of that and pop back, but I'll just very quickly show you the manual ID and AST entry in here as well. So again, we can choose different methods for manual ID, or we can do the same for our AST as well. And of course, the massive advantage of that is that we could then consolidate all of our ID and AST information, whether it's manual or automated, and we can manage our breakpoints for the offline methods, but also manage our rule filtering for AST within Maestria as well. So I think that's about all that I wanted to show you, and we've got a few minutes just for any questions and comments. I'll just stop sharing for now so I can see you. There we go. Excellent, Gareth. You're first in.
Yeah, I've got a few things. Sorry.
No problems.
How is this a relatively new system? How long's it been going on? You may have mentioned some of these. You might have already answered some of my questions as you've gone along, but I've kind of not picked up. So is it a new system? And you know, how many users are there across kind of the UK, Europe? Kind of, is this something that you're just kind of fresh to rolling out, or is it kind of trialed and tested?
Well, we released it on the 25th of March, 2023. That was the go launch date for the UK and Ireland. I think we have 6 installations now. So and we've got lots more in the program in process. So in the next month or two, we're able to have, you know, maybe another 5 or 6 installations. So it's just some of the conversations around getting these in place. Some of the interfaces have delayed the start, but we've got a variety of things going on, Gareth. We've got brand new customers with brand new interfaces, and we've got a number of upgrades from Myla ongoing. So globally, you know, we have lots. I mean, we're ahead of the curve. Excuse me, for the person. I'm not going to answer. Apologies for.
It's
I don't know if you can hear the dog.
Fair enough.
Always the same. But yeah, I mean, it's been launched globally, Gary. In fact, we're not selling Myla anymore after.
Okay.
There's a delivery person at the door. Can you hear the dog out of interest? Because I think Teams filters it out.
Not. Yeah, it's a very strange sound that we can hear. I wanted to ask about, you said about everyone would have their own username, that kind of thing. Can each user have different access levels to the different modules and that kind of thing, so you can lock it down so that, or is it access for everyone?
I'll answer that in just a second. I'm just going to open the window to this delivery guy.
Okay.
I'm just really sorry about this.
Okay.
Really sorry, everybody. So the access levels are very similar to Maestria. Sorry, to Myla, Gareth. Yeah, absolutely. We have one or two, or however many administrators you want. Perhaps you'd be one yourself. You'd be responsible then for adding the users, and they can be locked down just to simple kind of read only.
Okay.
But I mean, what I've realized talking to people is that because the software itself is so configurable, there are lots of different use cases for being able to add comments and add tags. And you would probably want to leave that as open as you possibly could without giving people administrative access, so that they can configure those lists and then amend them and all of that sort of thing. But the whole process for Maestria is it's very collaborative. You know, the installation process would be very much in collaboration with the FASs, so they could understand what your needs are, and it would build very much around you.
Okay, and it's definitely a two-way system, isn't it? So it feeds in and out of the limbs, so it's kind of pulling information out of there. Is that right?
So in terms of what data are we talking about? So obviously we get all of our request information from the limbs, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking you showed a slide where, well, several slides where you've got all the IDs and that kind of thing. Obviously, the majority of our IDs come from the Moldy, some of them from the Vitek, but there's some that we would kind of manually call based on kind of step grouping, things like that. So we would put them into the limbs. Would that then pull that data in there? So it's capturing all the data, or is it just based on analyzer data for IDs and sensitivities?
Well, obviously what we wouldn't want to do would be to duplicate any work, because this is about streamlining the workflow. But you could enter those IDs if they'd been acquired manually into the manual entry module.
Right.
It wouldn't automatically pull that from the limbs. I mean, we can. There are ways to get that via what we call an offline result as part of a request message. So it'd probably be possible to get that, but really the aim is to put this at the center of the workflow, and so that all of those manual ID entries or AST entries would be done directly into Maestria.
Does the same apply for the kind of manual UCAS testing that we would do?
Well, again, what we'd hope that would be managed within Maestria itself.
Yeah.
Because if you can pull together all of your manual methods, then that's the ideal place to do that.
Yeah. And you talked about, just on that topic, you talked about breakpoints and that kind of thing. So at the moment, or in periods of time, we'd obviously be working to different breakpoints, whether things went on the Vitek or whether we were manually reading the Kirby Bowers. So how would it manage that? Is that configurable?
So I think the idea is that the Vitek breakpoints would still be managed within the Vitek software, but all other offline methods could be managed within Maestria. I mean, as you can probably gather, Gareth, I'm hardly a microbiologist, and it would be an application specialist who would be best to answer those questions. But that's certainly how Maestria is designed.
Yeah, I've got two more things. Sorry, I'm a bit of a pain. So you said about kind of tracking the numbers of specimens and that kind of thing at different levels, like the blood cultures and stuff like that. Can you track it down to a specific specimen? And I think you can, based on what you put in there. Is that right? So you could go, you've got your averages, or it takes on average 5 minutes between positivity and your gram being reported and stuff like that. Can you strip that out into, well, these it took 5 minutes, this one it took 20 minutes and that kind of thing, and then dig down to kind of an audit level per specimen? Or
so that information is available, and that's where statistical reporting comes in. So Client Lab Analytics it looks great. You know, it's brilliant for data visualization and getting data very, very quickly, but it doesn't have the PID information. It doesn't have disposable information, but all of that data is within statistical reporting. So what you would probably want to do within that instance, if you found something that you thought needed further investigation, you wanted that sort of granularity, you would then take a time period and then take it to statistical reporting. There are time to positive reports in there, for instance. There are blood bottle volume reports in there, and those are the ones that will give you the sort of detail you're looking for that kind of export of the individual bottle and patient data.
Okay, well,
and we don't really have time. Unfortunately, we don't have time to do that today. But you know, that's something we could look at in much more detail sitting down together.
yeah. Just one last thing. You went into a screen where you kind of put in the lab number, and you could, you know, this. I think it was a manual entry screen.
Yes.
At that point, is the detail at the top configurable? So realistically, in our limbs, one of the main things is that you can see the clinical details there for the specimen that you're inputting, because it will guide us on, you know, risks of the specimen or the isolate, or kind of how we're going to manage that isolate or specimen going forward. Is that configurable to us, or has it got anything where it can show the clinical details associated?
Is that something that you would have the ability to send as part of a request message, Gareth, or what do you think?
I would have thought so. It's in a specific field in the limbs, so I think
Well,
as long as it will receive, it's textual, but it's kind of limited to so many characters and that kind of thing. I think these are the things kind of I'm trying to think practically in the lab, because it would pretty much, if it's going to be the main focus rather than the limbs, then it needs to have kind of the similar kind of functionality. But
I mean, that would probably depend very much on the kind of protocol we're using and what available fields there are for the request messages. Because with most of them, there are available fields for comments, and it's about how we pick those up. That would probably need to be, but again, a bit more of a detailed discussion with the application specialist about how we manage what we get through as part of the request message, and what Maestria does with that.
okay, well, and that's all from me.
No
Thank you.
problems. Thank you. Right, I know we've run over, but is that, oh, great, Kerry.
Thanks, Jamie. I just one question for me. You mentioned obviously that some labs are upgrading, obviously from Myler to this. So moving forward, is there like a life expectancy on Myler?
The life expectancy of Myler is tied to the Vitek MS, and that's been set at 2030, I believe. So we've still got a good number of years of support for Myler, but obviously we want to move as many customers as possible much earlier than that, particularly our kind of much bigger kind of showcase partners like yourself.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. I just wondered. That's all. Thank you.
No problems. And we've got another one. Or hello.
Hello, it's George Arendi, consultant microbiologist. I only dropped in halfway, so but I think it is an interesting system, and I just listened to your part on antibiotic suppression rules that you can
Yes.
program, and can that also be based on patient parameters like age? Yeah,
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely,
so
yes.
that's useful because we have something in that system called WinPath, but unfortunately the rules kick in after as a microbiologist validate, so we cannot never overrule anything there. So
Right.
if it would be already done in the lab system before it's handed over to WinPath, and we would then authorize in WinPath and be able that will be progress in terms of our ability to control suppression rules and sometimes overrule it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it builds on a limited module that's available within Myler, I think, but that's another very significant enhancement with Maestro as opposed to Myler. And there are lots of different parameters that you can filter on for that drug suppression. But it'd be an application specialist who might be best to have this conversation. But certainly on age, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
No problems. Righty. So, any more before we wrap up? Well, in that case, thank you very much for listening. I know there's a lot there. You pack in quite a lot to an hour, and believe it or not, I can talk for a lot more about this. But yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And do we know what the plan is? What the next steps for this, Kerry, or what stage are we at?
I think we need to go away and discuss. Obviously, I'd like to show the obviously the other consultants, including Krishna and Alice, obviously the demo that you've shown us as well. And then I think we need to just have some discussions and then we can make decisions moving forward. But yeah, that was really, really useful. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, if you need any more, as I've said, perhaps some more detailed discussion around how you manage rule filtering, some of those things for the FASs might be able to discuss in more detail, then just let us know, and we can chat again.
Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Right. Well, thanks very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the day.
All right. Thanks. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Catch you later. Bye bye.
Thanks, Jamie. Bye.